would be like our compassion seeing somebody in a nightmare and we can't wake them up. We would like to wake them up, but we know we don't need to take the enemy away or the pain away or heal them or whatever. All we know, or all we need to do, is to wake them up. So, of course you have compassion. You see the person suffering, but it's total different compassion that when somebody comes with a broken limb. Do you see what I mean? Okay. So that's the difference. Yeah. But please do not fall into the trap by saying, oh, everything is just illusion, I don't need to do anything. It's not like this. Yeah. We still need to do things. Okay. So one of the signs also is that you cannot open or you cannot close your eyes. So I think I already have that some mornings. I have to use my fingers to open my eyes. I can't open them up with the muscles. So then I know, okay, so this is going towards there. Yeah, so it's okay. Okay, so that's the first absorption. That's the first thing that happens when the death, it is called the death process, when that starts. The mirage, somebody said, oh yeah, my father, when he was dying in hospital, he constantly told us to dry up the puddles on the floor. Yeah. So you see, I'm very lucky because I have to explain that many times. So it happens sometimes that people are there, like you, who have heard people describe these things but didn't know what it was. Like one also said, oh, my grandfather kept telling us that he feels like being sucked into a toilet, and we all try to calm him down by saying, no, you're lying on your bed. And the more we tried to explain that to him, the more upset he got, because he felt like being sucked into a toilet. The power of the mind who plays tricks, because the earth element is not giving us the support anymore, to feel supported. Same way, the night when you feel like falling, you're lying on your bed. Where does the falling come from? From the bed or from the mind? From the mind. But it feels so real. It feels totally real. Yeah? So next time you experience it, you go, this is what it is. Okay, second factor dissolving is the water element. So then water liquids are starting to dry up. This you can see with dying people, that everything becomes very dry. Lips and mouth, they can't swallow anymore. So, but you can wet something and then, wet the lips or whatever.
Tears.
Huh?
Tears.
Tears, yeah.
Tears come.
Mm-hmm. Well, they also that liquid also dries up, they say, because also body liquid, or it comes out of the other. So usually it says saliva, sweat, urine, blood dries up, and this also happens at night sometimes. Yeah, that you wake up with a totally dry mouth, and it's not very pleasant. And what you do, you try to bring your saliva back. Yeah, but there you can't bring it back. So don't get frustrated and not normal. I'll be gone very soon, so no need to get upset here. Because also here, at this point, our feelings, our sensations kind of lose their power. That we painful experiences are not kind of experienced as unpleasant, but just painful experience. Pleasant experience and not experienced as wow, so great. So kind of you feel it, but it doesn't disturb you. So this is also why we can, very quickly, that kind of the pain actually goes. The sensation of the pain very quickly goes.
So at this stage there is no fear anymore?
Huh?
At this stage there is no fear anymore?
No fear of pain. The pain is not there anymore. But there's fear of losing everything that you're attached to. That's still there. The concepts are still very much there. Yeah? They only dissolve once the body is finished. Okay. And you have an appearance of smoke, like seems smoke appearing all of a sudden. And it makes sense because when the earth element absorbs into the water element, so you see water where there's earth. When the water element absorbs into the fire element. What happens when you pour water on fire? Smoke. Okay. So the next one that absorbs is the fire element. So the body heat starts to retract. You know, the limbs get very cold. So sometimes also dying people feel very hot. They throw everything off, even though the limbs feel cold. So try not to cover them. If they kind of throw it off, that means they're too hot. Leave them alone. Because it's the earth, the fire element that kind of flares up, comes up. Sometimes you have that in your meditation also. Sometimes all of a sudden, women have it also a certain age, so then that's your age. Okay, it's called menopause. But we had somebody at one point, he had the incredible sweat in his meditation in Tushita, and sometimes the window would get steamy. That he discharged so much heat. And so I didn't know what it was. And some Lama said he's purifying hell realms. So it's great.
Tapas.
Huh?
Tapas. Tapas. In yoga you produce heat.
Yeah, kappa, heat,
Tapas.
exactly. Yeah, or tumo, but this was like, it came spontaneously. It didn't do any exercises to do that. It just came spontaneously. Incredible heat. So when you feel that in your meditation, don't worry. It's actually a good sign. Also, it's a deepening of concentration also. Yeah. So no need to worry. Okay, so the fire element absorbs. You cannot digest anymore at this point. With the water, I forgot. With the water is the ears, the ear consciousness that kind of disappears. And this also we know when we go to sleep. You know. Like for example, where I sleep, there's I don't know if it's an air conditioner or something, it can on, off. It's right underneath the window somewhere. So it's a bit disturbing when I'm still awake, but then when I go to sleep, I don't hear it anymore. So it's okay, yeah.
Do you hear anything else?
Huh?
Do you hear anything else?
Where, what?
I mean,
When you
the
die?
ears, in this moment, in the water stage, like the ears.
Well, sometimes they say you hear this a little bit an sound, something. Yeah, maybe something like, I also have a tinnitus, maybe something like that, some internal sounds. But like because the ear consciousness kind of loses its power, so it cannot pick up external sounds anymore.
So we can no longer guide them verbally.
The Tibetans still do, because also as the senses get more subtle, like they don't need the consciousness anymore. They don't need these cross consciousnesses anymore. And also maybe when you say something, you also think it. So maybe that gets transmitted. I don't know. But yeah, the Tibetans shout into dying people's ears sometimes these instructions. So I don't know. But definitely try to communicate like mentally, like telling them what to do, telling them what happens. When my father died, because it says in that intermediate state, every 7 days you go through these stages again. And so I would go through these stages in my meditation, because I was doing a tantric retreat where you do this all the time. That's what you train. You train to go into the clear light. And I would put him in my mind next to me, and I would explain to him what was going on. Don't know if it helped him, but it definitely helped me to feel useful, not to feel so totally useless and self-absorbed. I lost my hero because my dad was my hero, so him dying was a big problem. Yeah, it was a huge problem for me when he kind of went. I wasn't happy that he died so well in only one day in hospital. I have lost, and I could see what was happening. I have lost my father. I wasn't concerned about him so much. Yeah. Then also had quite meaningful dreams, I think, while he was in the body. And then after about a month and a half of being in retreat, the pain was gone. And it's never come back. The memory is still there, but no more pain. Just gratitude about having had such a good dad. So it's a good way of letting the pain be there for it to heal. Allowing it to be there. I was in retreat, so I could cry as much as I wanted for a whole month and a half. Until the pain was... I woke up and the pain was gone. Yeah. So where were we? With the water element, like the hearing goes. With the fire element, then what goes? Smell. The nose goes. And at that moment, because the fire element is about to absorb into the air element, the inhalation becomes very labored and very difficult, and exhalation becomes very long. So sometimes you can hear a sound a little bit like this, and that can be very frightening. And you think the person is in distress, but they're not. Even doctors kind of confirm. They have to do something with water here, water that is gathered here, I don't know what. And they can do something about it so that the people around them are not are not in distress. But the dying person, you know. Also you kind of really hear, so you start to disengage from the world. You don't know who these people are who are standing around you. You might still feel them, or well, somebody's there, but you know, kind of. So let them go. So you know, there's always this question about, shall I hold somebody's hand or not? You can feel it, whether they want to be held or not. They need to go. They're going. And it's quite amazing to see also how many people die. You're there the whole day sitting next to their bed. Then you go pee-pee, and when you come back they stop breathing. And then you feel really bad. But it's very often that, it's true they can wait until people are there, but then they also wait, they have a private moment and they can go. And it's the same for us. You know, when you have to separate from somebody that you like very much. It's so much suffering, it's so difficult. Yeah? Whereas when you go to the airport because you're going somewhere and the person is already going to work, it's not painful. Not so much at least. Yeah? But then, the people come with you to the airport and we prolong the suffering, and then it's the look back, and again you look back, you know, it's like, again. So we will have to go. So, you know, you can also kind of train and think, well, do I want to be held or not held? And then write it down somewhere. In Switzerland we have these prefabricated printed things where you can write in all the things you want during dying, after death, rituals you want. I think it's very helpful for the people who stay behind, because they have some kind of clue what you want. Yeah? Because very often they do what they want, that's not necessarily what you want. Yeah? Whereas when you know what the dying person wants, it gives you some tranquility also. You just do, you just follow the instructions. So you don't need a prefabricated thing, you can do this by yourself. You also have it in Israel? Not yet? No? And also when you go to hospital, you have to bring this in Switzerland. If you have to undergo an operation, whether you want to be put on a life supporting system or not, you have to bring it. So you have it also. Okay.
But not in this detail.
Not so detailed. Okay.
Just the DNR part.
Huh?
We have it. It's complicated.
Okay.
Later.
You have, but you have it, so that's the main thing.
Yeah.
You have an appearance of fireflies, because the firefly, you know, that's what appears to your mind. Also, when you faint, by the way, you can recognize these sounds. How many of you have fainted? Okay. Do you remember? All of a sudden, kind of sound goes. You feel like, ooh, you feel like the earth is not supporting you anymore. You have stars, sparks that come, and then poops, and then you're gone. Then when you wake up, can you remember the moment when you wake up? How do you feel when you come back?
Very relaxed, very peaceful.
Huh?
Very peaceful.
Very peaceful,
Very airy.
very open, very kind of, whoa, and then you see all the faces around you, and then you go, it happened again. I had a face like this when I was about 21. I would just, boom, just faint like this for about a year, and then it was gone, very finished. It's very interesting, you know. And yeah, I remember like the moment when you wake up, you feel very, very spacious, very airy, because you've been in the clear light. Yeah? Because that also these also absorptions also happen when you faint. So please don't induce it artificially, okay? Try it out. We train it in the meditation. We're not with chemicals and substances and stuff like So you see fireflies or sparks. It's like, when you blow into the fire, what happens? It gives off sparks. If it's wood fire, actually. If it's gas fire, probably no. Sometimes also when you kind of bring some fire in there. Then the wind element absorbs. You would stop breathing at that moment. It's page 17. Inhalation, exhalation totally ceases. You cannot perform any physical actions anymore. You would be declared dead at that time because your heart also stopped breathing, but the mind is still in the body. So this is when I said this is where now they see this tsunami happening that shuts down all the circuits in the brain. Yeah. And you have an appearance of a sputtering butter lamp about to go out, or one candle in a big room. So because now the air element is absorbs into the space element, so you kind of draw out the oxygen. So then, of course, the candle dies down. Your tongue can become very quickly with dead people becomes short, thick, maybe blue or black, and you cannot experience tastes and smoothness or roughness anymore. So these two senses go. The tactile sense and the tongue sense. I think for you then what is important that you learn the signs, and that will, you can lie down and that will guide you through it. So now the gross mind has absorbed. So now it's the more subtle mind that is riding on the winds. So we have channels in our body, meridians. You know about meridians? You heard about them? You know that in there's energy that with a needle you can influence it and so on and so forth. Everybody is nodding. Do you really know it? Nah. We believe it because we've seen some signs. Yeah, we have seen some signs that, it works. Sticking the needle there, then the liver gets better or something like that. So we believe it. We don't know. Believe it. So it's good that you believe it because then you let people stick needles into you. Otherwise, you wouldn't do that. You're allowed. Yeah. So then the winds that are, first they enter the central channel at the top of your head, and then they kind of travel downwards, and you have something that is called a white appearance. Like nothing appears, it's just white. Like full moon. The example here doesn't work so well. In a winter night when there's fresh snow and there's full moon and there's the reflection of the full moon on the snow. So it's not direct light, but it's this kind of white light. That's what appears. And your mind at this point becomes more subtle and more subtle and more subtle. Next point is like the energy winds from all the other channels, they enter the central channel at your spine. The central channel kind of starts here, moves up and goes down in front of the spine. And besides it are like side channels like this, and out of that branch out all the others. Very complicated system. Again, don't need to know exactly unless then you start doing these practices, working with chakras and channels and energies. But it's not at the beginning of your practice. So then the next one is you have an appearance of copper red light, like there's sometimes sunset, like today also a very clear sky, and there's nothing that appears in the sky, it's just this copper red light. Yes, Leora?
The 80 conceptions are still the gross mind?
No, it's a more subtle mind.
More subtle.
Yes, the grosser mind is the mind that is connected to the sense organs.
So
The five
we
sense
have dissolving-
consciousnesses.
from the
Here is
first-
mental consciousness.
From the first to the fourth, we have the aggregates dissolving first, form, feeling, discerning, compositional factors, and then we start the mind. The first one is 80 conceptions, consciousness, which is subtler.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a concept, it's thoughts. It's not sense experiences. Yeah, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so you have when the energy winds from the lower part of the body kind of into the central channel, go upwards, you have an appearance of like copper red light. And when these two energies at the heart chakra here come together, you have, and that's what many people describe near-death experience, total darkness. Like a tunnel experience, nothing appears. It's called black near attainment. Then when these winds dissolve into an even more subtle mind, then you have the experience of what is called the clear light of death, where, this kind of thing, where you lose all sense of I, me, separate from that light. And you can have experiences like this also in daily life. When you're very good at dancing, like classical dance or ballet dance or jazz ballet, something like this, you totally lose yourself. When you're very creative and you start painting or singing or playing music, you totally lose yourself. Doing sports also. I don't know how it is in the gym, but definitely sports where you need balance, like surfing or skiing, there's moments you totally lose yourself. You become totally oneness with the board, the wave. I haven't surfed, so I'm just using this because maybe it's more relevant to you than skiing. Yeah, you become. How many of you surf? Also nobody. Okay. Do you recognize what I'm talking about? Yeah, exactly. So I'm not the only one. Yeah, orgasm, same thing. All the channels open when you have an orgasm. This is why you feel so good. And so actually what we try, enlightenment is like having an orgasm that is huge as the sky, but there's no clinging to it. Yeah? So there's no this kind of excitement thing. So it's maybe the moment just after the orgasm, when you are still very, very open. So next time also you have an orgasm, look, check. What's the state of my mind? You would be able to die for this other person. No problem. You oneness with this other person. There's no more separation of them. And then he turns over and starts to snore, and then unfortunately the oneness is gone. You go like, I want also to sleep. Instead of, if it would be real love, you would go, oh, so nice, he's sleeping so tight. That would, if that orgasm energy would stay, if the chakras wouldn't close up again, then you would be absolutely no problem. Okay, snoring, making noise, whatever. So you can use all these daily experiences to kind of to start to get to know. So also orgasm gets you into, for a short moment, into the clear nature mind. And then
You get bored again?
huh?
You get bored again?
No. Then the very
Not yet.
huh?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
So the mind is still in the body. Means the body at that moment, it does not decay, right? So this is why very experienced meditators, they can stay in that state. They're clinically dead, but they can stay in that state for sometimes a few days, sometimes a few weeks, and the body does not decay. So they meditate on emptiness, on that nature, the clear nature mind. They're in that, it's called tukdam, like the final meditation. And it's still findable in the internet. There's a documentary from New Zealand, Thupten Rinpoche is his name, and they had doctors there and scientists, and they kind of pulled his hair, and they looked at his skin, who did not decay, and they said, yeah, really, he's dead, but nothing is decaying. So it was in the news, so it's a documentary about his death on the news. It's still findable. If you look New Zealand and you put Thupten Rinpoche and death and dying or something, Thupten, Thupten, Thupten Rinpoche. So the mind is still in the body, and then, but when the moment of clear light of death finishes, then that very subtle mind that is not perceivable because you don't see anything, riding on what is called subtle wind, which are the energies, is leaving the body, going into the bardo, and they're taking on something that is called like a dream body. And we also have in the dream, we also have a body, yeah, a very subtle body, not form, but still we have pain, and we do things, we walk, we go somewhere. So then you become what is called an intermediate state being, or a bardo being, and there you are very restless, they say, and very nervous, because you lost your base, you lost the body. So it's like being in a dream and not being able to wake up. Yeah. So at one point, one Lama was saying, which I found very meaningful, because person was asking, can we choose our next rebirth? And he says, yes, we can choose, but our mind is so desperate to have a body that it is like you haven't eaten for a week and you enter a full supermarket. How much time do you give yourself to choose what you want to eat? You know, the first available packet, you rip it open and you... So that's it. That's the danger of this whole thing. The mind desperate for a body. So it can be an animal or whatever is around you, the mind enters it. So they're very quick, they say. Very restless, going from one place to the other. Very nervous. It's a very nervous state. It can also be very peaceful if you realize and you know what's happening. Yeah.
In this state, you can also choose not to have anybody, not to rebirth. In this state, you can also choose to not rebirth.
No.
To not enter.
No, you because you will, you know, the same way. When you wake up from sleep and you don't know who you are, what do? You choose to leave it at that point? Okay, I don't know why I was okay. Sometimes happens also, I don't know, especially after when you fall into that black hole, you lose your identity, you don't know who you are. What does the mind do? It just relaxes and says, oh, I choose to stay in that state where I'm a nobody. Or it grasps, it goes, it looks, it wants identity. Same way it will want a body, as long as we're so attached to the body. But you can also be reborn, one says, in a non-physical form as a spirit. It's maybe not so pleasant. And these spirits, they can be benevolent or they can be very nasty. And hungry ghosts also, they don't have a real body. It says hungry, what's it called? Hell beings, they don't have a physical body, but still they experience a lot of pain.
So spirits is another realm? Seventh
It's
realm?
another dimension, yeah. But they can be perceived also. You know, we just, some people see them. So,
But how can you choose if it depends on your karma?
yeah.
So how can you choose it?
Still, the more awareness you have karma for good rebirth and you have karma for negative rebirth. But the choice is very small, the same way as you probably don't give yourself a lot of time. You know, and the desperation for a body is much bigger than the desperation for food when you go to that supermarket. I thought it was a very good example. You do have a choice because many things are there. So you would have a choice, but your mind is so desperate that then you don't have a choice, actually. But the choice, what is there, what is available is there. So there is, I don't know if we have it in the library, there's quite a small book which explains this whole thing, which is called Death, Intermediate State and Rebirth, by Lachlan and Jeffrey Hopkins. Yeah. Also the Lamrim Chemo, like we have, I think we have volume 1 and 2, or 1 and 3. I think in volume 2 it is explained how one is reborn, what happens in the bardo, and how one is reborn. And you find, you know, there is also a book about a conference with the Dalai Lama and scientists, which is called Sleeping, Dreaming, Dying, where they discuss it with scientists, this whole process. So you can find a lot of information about this, because this moment is very, very important. Yeah. And when it says, yes, it's like, how can we choose? The choice happens already to some extent. At the beginning, when this process starts, when the mind is still kind of with the concepts and everything, when you are in a peaceful state of mind or in an unpeaceful state of mind. This is why if you are with dying people, your first duty is to try best as you can to make them peaceful. And if you feel that you are making them agitated because you're present, then please go. You know, even if you're very close to that person, if you feel that it creates more agitation, more restlessness in the person's mind, then just go. Especially if they dislike you, then don't be there. Huh?
I wanted to know if the length of the stages differ from different people.
Yeah. Well, they say the most that you stay in that intermediate state is 49 days. That's the most. But it can be shorter also. But again, you know, 49 days what? 49 days of a human realm, 49 days of a hell being. Because they say for You know, one day in the human realm is what, 500 years in the hell realm? I don't know. You know, there's these examples that sometimes I have a bit difficult.